have a passion that is with me always, and with it I have learned to cry, to laugh, to feel, to love, to live. This limitless passion that fills me every day is none other than opera. A passion where I have always found the answer I seek. A passion that has given me everything, and one that I need and want to share with all of you, because opera is life, and sharing is the best there is.
For those of you whose need to create beauty is constant, for everyone who sees beauty all around, and those who simply see the nice side of things, today's opera is your opera. Beauty for the sake of beauty.
It is 6 in the morning and the sun is about to come out. A moment of extraordinary beauty that occurs every day. One of those moments that is beautiful in and of itself.
Here we go, the sunrise, objective, reality. Well, you guys are seeing it through the camera, but what you're seeing is the most objective reality possible. But wait a second, how would a painter see a down like this one? Look at this. This is the painting Impression Soleil Levant by Monet. Monet is not painting reality. Monet is painting his impression, his interpretation of reality. How light strikes in reality and how this gives an impression to us. An impression that we need in order to interpret the painting itself. In Péléas et Mélisande by Claude Debussy, the same thing happens because it is an impressionist work too. It produces an impression to us, an impression that you'll see is pure and simple beauty. What is beauty? This is one of the great questions that humanity has always pondered. A question that surely has 1,000 answers, like for instance, the ones we hear in the movie Venus during the conversation between Peter O'Toole and Jodie Whittaker in the National Gallery of London while they're looking at the marvelous Velázquez painting, La Venus del Espejo. A lovely conversation, a woman's new body, your first child, the sunrise. It is the natural beauty of things. But humankind has always wanted to take it farther. For instance, in his painting Nymphéa, Monet painted water lilies on a lake, and he did it in his own way. If we review the history of art from the cave paintings of Altamira to ancient Greece, Rome, the medieval Romanesque, Gothic, and the Renaissance with Leonardo da Vinci, the great Leonardo, all are representations of art according to the canons of their time. But if we go a little bit farther and examine this painting, Saturno devorando a sus hijos by Goya, we all agree it's a work of art, but I don't know if we would agree that it's a beautiful painting. But when we reach pictorial impressionism, practically all of us agree that these paintings are lovely, are beautiful. And Péléas et Mélisande has to be understood within the framework of impressionism, because Debussy painted his music with impressionistic brush strokes. That's why his music is so lovely. And when we listen to it, it grabs itself around us.
In Pelléas and Mélisande, the argument is a little bit confusing. I'd even say it's the least important element. It's the story of two stepbrothers, Pelléas and Goulot, who are in love with the same woman, Mélisande, a mysterious woman who marries Goulot. But the most of the situations are disjointed. It is as if the argument came out of a David Lynch movie, like Mulholland Drive, that road in Los Angeles that goes winding and at the same time is so very dangerous. With Pelléas and Mélisande, Debussy creates an opera with little argument and many scenes unconnected to one another, but that are packed with inner feelings.
I feel like a ride in the city with you here, showing me the way to go. It feels like home. I sit here alone by the river with thoughts of once I never knew your name. Now we're just the same.
The first I want to tell you is how to listen to Debussy's music, because musical language can be used in many different ways. Let's take an idea. For instance, we are in this museum, this wonderful museum, but we have to leave because it's closing time. How would Beethoven express it? Listen. You see, Beethoven says, "Get out of here, get out of here." Beethoven tells you exactly what you have to do. It's an order, so you have to get out of here, period. But if we take this idea of musical language to Debussy, how would he express it? Listen. Debussy does something totally different. Debussy tells you, maybe it's gotten a little bit late, so don't you think it will be wise to start living? Listen. You see, Debussy flees from decisive harmonies. Debussy's harmonies are suggestive. He suggests an idea to us, and this idea produces an impression in us, and whatever it is always the right one, because it is wherever we feel. So there is only one road to take in enjoying Debussy. Let yourself go with his music and feel his will to set music free.
Duke Ellington was one of the greats in the history of music. Music was his life, and he ended up composing over 2,000 musical pieces. They say he was so prolific because he had synesthesia. And what is synesthesia? The ability to express in one sense what is received through another. So you understand what I'm saying. When Duke Ellington heard a musical note, he saw colors.
Hi, come on. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good are you?
I'm going to open a brand new set of colored pencils. It is always, for me, a magical moment, because as soon as you open the books, it is as if your creativity blooms. Don't you think so?
Yes.
So, let's do it. Let's open the box. Here we go. Wow. Beautiful, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, but beyond that, if we were synesthetic, when we looked at these colors upon opening the box, we would have heard what?
Music.
Music, exactly. Musical notes. In fact, Duke Ellington said once, when a D note was played, he saw which color? Red, yellow,
Dark blue.
Dark blue, exactly. There's one here. Dark blue, more or less, this one. So I would like us to do an experiment. So I would like you to draw. I want you to draw, but not just to draw, but to draw the music I'm going to play for you. Okay? See? You ready? Yeah. Okay, so you have your pencils, your colored pencils over there. Get ready, and I'll play for you.
Okay.
Finished?
Yeah.
Are you finished too?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Come closer, James. How could you say you painted that?
The music you played was very soothing and very harmonious and very calming. So I imagine something underwater. So there's a tulip underwater and there's fish coming at it, and the tulip is kind of shaped in a seductive way to attract the fish toward it.
Okay, I like it very much.
Thank you.
You, Carla? What did you? This is yours. This is yours.
Sí.
And what it is?
Yo he pintado la luz que llueve del cielo,
Esto es la luz lloviendo del cielo. ¿Por qué?
porque la melodía me hacía pensar a luz fluyendo.
La luz fluyendo. Pues es una idea muy interesante, ¿no? Y ahora vamos con Lucille, que ha pintado. Venid todos a ver qué has pintado tú.
J'ai voulu représenter, je me suis inspirée de Monet qui est autour de nous, et la musique m'a fait penser à un flux, donc d'où la rivière qui coule, et aussi à cette bataille entre le jour et la nuit, ce coucher de soleil et donc les saules pleureurs qu'on peut voir ici juste à côté, et tout ce mélange de couleurs un peu comme dans l'impressionnisme, des couleurs qui se mêlent et le personnage qui contemple.
Parfait, très joli. So, what can I say? Merci beaucoup. Muchas gracias. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
De nada.
There you have it. All of us are a little bit synesthetic and are able to create internal images based on stimuli, in this case, through music. James, Carla, and Lucille, what they did wasn't just painting. They turned music into emotions, into feelings, into impressions. Try it for yourself at home. Put on some music by Debussy and try painting it. And you will step into the center ring of the Impressionist universe, into the music of Claude Debussy.
Back to Monet. Monet didn't become famous for his painting Impression sur les Levant alone. He also made a name for himself with a series of paintings he did of this cathedral. And I say his paintings because he didn't paint only one of the cathedral. He painted 31, because for the Impressionists, the most important thing was light, how light hits a landscape or an object. And this is exactly what Monet did here in Rouen.
Monet didn't create this series of paintings of the cathedral down in the square. Contradicting the Impressionist inclination to always paint outdoors, he rented 3 apartments on this square. This is one of them, where the Terms office of the city is now located. The others were at the 2 ends of the square. Monet painted the effect of the different light throughout day on this extraordinary Gothic cathedral. When the sun came up, a painting. Late morning, another painting. At noon, another one. If it went overcast, another painting. If the sun came back out in the afternoon, yet another painting. And so on until he reached 31. All this that Monet did isn't as strange as it sounds. Keep in mind that we are at the end of the 19th century and photography existed at this point. Photography allowed people to show objective reality just as it is. So what painters sought to do was to express their own vision of reality. And that's why Monet did 31 paintings of this facade, a different painting for every change in light.
Monet shows up all over the place in Rouen, and not just Monet, but all the Impressionist painters. They are one of the biggest tourist attractions in Normandy and all along the banks of the Seine. In fact, this place of northeastern France is the birthplace of this artistic movement. For years, the tourist office of Rouen has given a workshop where painters can paint the cathedral just as Monet did from this very same place. This is definitely the most beautiful way to understand and feel the Impressionist spirit.
As we have seen, Monet was obsessed with capturing the way the light hit the cathedral facade in his paintings. Of course, today, light still shines on this facade, but it's not just during the day, it's also at night. The fantastic mapping of impressionistic images that are projected onto the cathedral at night in summer transports us and offers the possibility of understanding Monet's thinking. Objects change with light, and light is full of color. Monet said that he only knew how to do three things: compose music, garden, and eat, because cooking is one thing that he did not do. What he did do was go to the markets and farms near his home so they could supply him with high-quality products. Simple products like vegetables that, although they may seem boring and bland, can be delicious if they are cooked with the right care.
Both in his daily meals as in his celebrations, or simply when he received his guests, Monet gave the dinner table the importance it deserved. He controlled everything: the menus, the seating of guests, the timings. For instance, lunch was always served at 11:30, and dinner always at 7. For him, eating was a philosophy of life. Without realizing it, he invented what today is called slow food, the concept of eating well without being in a rush. Merci beaucoup, madame. Merci. Debussy's music also needs to be tasted without being rushed. I know this is not simply first, but if you taste through his music, calmly and slowly, I'll guarantee you will end up loving it.
Elle ouvrait les yeux des aveugles, on l'appelle encore la fontaine des aveugles. Elle n'ouvre plus les yeux des aveugles.
Like Monet at his table, a man who never neglected a single detail, nor in the content of his dishes or in the atmosphere of the room. That's how Debussy composed. Just consider Péléas et Mélisande. Musically, it's made up of small moments, all of them very subtle, careful down to the last detail, with singers who seem not to sing. In fact, Debussy hated lyric singing, so much so that the first thing he told the players in Péléas et Mélisande was to forget that they are singers. And the works by Debussy his notes, they are like little brushstrokes that come together to create new musical atmospheres.
So how does Debussy create these different atmospheres? How does he paint his music? Very simple. Before Debussy, composers used the most common scales, major and minor. For example, this is the major scale. A normal scale, and this is the minor. Also sounds familiar, right? Debussy, on the other hand, revives two long-forgotten scales. First, the whole tone scale. Listen, this one. You see, with a simple scale, we have created a whole new atmosphere. And why does it happen? Very simple, because this scale doesn't alternate between tones and semitones like the previous ones. This scale has no semitones, meaning the distance between its notes is always the same, one tone. And the second scale that Debussy revives is this one, the pentatonic scale. Listen. What can I say? So, impressionist music.
In order to talk about Pelléas and Mélisande, I set up a meeting with the great German orchestra conductor Michael Boder, a man who knows it all, or almost all, about Debussy's music.
Weil können wir sagen, dass da Pelléas und Mélisande eine impressionistische Oper ist.
Natürlich ist es das. Aber was heißt Impressionismus? Impressionismus heißt ja, es geht nicht darum, eine Geschichte zu erzählen oder einen Garten zu malen, sondern es geht darum, Farben zu benutzen, um in uns das Bild zu erzeugen eines Gartens.
Also dann jeder versteht was anderes.
Ja, jeder hat seinen eigenen Garten. Ja.
Und das ist toll.
Das ist das Tolle dran. Ja.
Können wir sagen, dass Pelléas und Mélisande keine einfache Musik ist, oder?
Ich glaube, dass sie einfach ist. Es ist nur eine Frage des Zugangs. Und wenn man so davor steht und sie anhört oder der Sache zusieht, dann bleibt sie einem vielleicht verschlossen. Ich habe mir es immer so vorgestellt, wenn wir ein Bild haben eines Gartens, etwa so groß. Aha. Und wir schauen uns das an, dann denken wir an den Garten und denken an einen anderen Garten und schön, gut. Wenn wir jetzt aber den Weg gehen und gehen in das Bild hinein und lassen zu, dass wir verschluckt werden von dem Bild, dann sind plötzlich die Blumen so groß, jede Farbe wird ganz anders und es fängt an zu duften. Und diesen Prozess, den muss man zulassen, dann versteht man die Musik sofort.
Sofort.
Als würden wir in diesen Blumen verschwinden und würden plötzlich sehen, dass jedes Rosa ist ganz verschieden. Keine Blüte ist wie die andere. Und dann belebt sich das Ganze. Und das hat auch mit der Sprache zu tun, glaube ich. Weil auch die Sprache bei Debussy in dieser Oper eine ganz andere Funktion hat.
Welche?
Sie transportiert nicht Inhalt, das ist gar nicht so wichtig. Sondern im Grunde versucht er Folgendes zu machen, und ich glaube, dass es ihm sehr gut gelingt. So wie bei einer Blüte die Farbe und der Duft zusammen sind, ist dort in jedem Wortklang, das wäre sozusagen die Farbe, gleich der Duft mit drin, das wäre die Musik.
Also es ist dann mehr als Musik.
Ja.
Also es ist Musik mit Duft.
Ja.
Musik,
die duftet.
die duftet. Und Debussy hat also den Sängern gesagt, also vergisst ihr, dass ihr Sänger seid, und versucht also das Ganze anders zu machen. Wie soll man das auch verstehen? Die singen nicht so, wie wir
singen verstehen. Sie ist so mehr ein Rezitativartist, oder?
Ja, könnte man so sehen. Es geht auch nicht darum, dass einer jetzt wie ein großer Sänger sich produziert und eine Arie singt oder so. Das gibt es gar nicht. Im Grunde müssen die Sänger sich verwandeln in Fische und werden ins Wasser geworfen und singen im Wasser und gehören dazu einfach, sind einfach drin. Ne?
Also gibt es keine Arien, gibt es keine, sagen wir mal, Highlights der Oper. Was könnte man sagen dann über die Melodie? Hat diese Musik eine Melodie, die man nachher nach Hause geht und pfeifen kann?
Eher nicht. Aber auch das ist etwas, was er nicht wollte, sagen wir so. Sondern auch da komme ich wieder auf das Bild zurück von Pflanzen vielleicht. Es ist eher so, als würde sich alles miteinander verschlingen, wie Schlingpflanzen. Und nicht, es steht ein großer Baum in der Mitte und was drumherum, sondern es verschlingt sich einfach. Und so ist auch die Stimmführung und die Melodieführung. Also es geht einfach immer weiter, wie ein vegetatives, wachsendes System.
Jemanden, der nie in die Oper gewesen ist und geht in die Oper rein und guckt La Traviata. La Traviata ist eine wunderbare Oper, wunderschöne Musik von Verdi. Und jeder mag La Traviata, weil es eine, sagen wir mal so, einfache Musik ist. Aber wenn den gleichen jemanden rein in die Oper geht und Pelléas et Mélisande sieht?
Der Zugang ist schwierig. Es ist so, als würde man es ist eine Mauer um einen schönen Garten und man findet den Eingang nicht. Den muss man finden, dann geht's.
Aber wenn man in der Lage ist, diese Tür aufzumachen und reinzugehen?
Dann schließt sich die Tür automatisch hinter einem und man ist weg.
In Pelléas et Mélisande, Debussy puts music to a work by Maurice Maeterlinck, the great symbolist writer. This literary movement broke with the romanticism of the 19th century. His characters no longer talk about sentiments and they don't hold the reins of their destiny. They are characters who live within an invisible world where they try to know what is happening to them. The symbolist suggests internal impressions, the same thing Debussy does with his music. I'm right here under the Eiffel Tower. Here you can see the Seine dividing the city of Paris into two. Behind me, for example, you can see Montmartre or the famous Champs-Élysées. And here, in front of me, which would be the southern part of the city, there is, for example, Saint-Germain or Montparnasse. Well, when Pelléas et Mélisande premiered, the city of Paris was split between Debussy's supporters and those who considered his music dreadful. Those against it put up some really thought opposition. For example, Théodore Dubois, the director of the Paris Conservatoire, forbade his students, if any of you go to see the opera, I will suspend you. Or, for example, the famous composer Camille Saint-Saëns said, I won't be going on vacation this year so that I can keep badmouthing Pelléas et Mélisande. But what happened with Pelléas et Mélisande is not so strange. It is what has happened so many times in the history of art. It is, for instance, the same thing that happened with this tower, La Tour Eiffel. When it was constructed for the 1889 World's Fair, Paris was also divided into two camps. The ones who supported this great architectural work and those who only saw a garish, hulking iron mass. Those who wanted to tear it down and those who wanted to keep it standing. Over the years, the Eiffel Tower became a symbol that goes beyond the city itself, a universal symbol. Nowadays, no one can picture Paris' skyline without this tower, just as no one can picture the history of opera without Pelléas et Mélisande. I'm convinced that the historical circumstances for someone to be able to create an opera like Pelléas et Mélisande will never come about again. For someone to revolutionize a city like this one simply by trying to create beauty. Now, I would like us to take a look at another one of the symbols of Paris, the Great Notre Dame. Both the Eiffel Tower and Notre Dame were built following perfect proportions. Take a close look at the facade of Notre Dame, okay? You have taken a good look, then you have seen that its shape is the sum of perfect rectangles. Let's look at the staging for Péléas and Mélisande at the Paris Opera created by Bob Wilson. And here, let's stop the picture here for a second. Check out this one thing. Wilson created a very special set design. Many of the scenery elements have perfect proportions. In this case, squares and rectangles, what is known as the golden ratio. And what is the golden ratio? Well, it is the perfect proportion of beauty. Let me try to explain. Don't anybody get scared off yet, okay? We're going to do a little arithmetic. Really easy, but math all the same. Ready? All right, let's do it. The golden ratio is a mathematical number, 1.618, which is known as the golden number. In the 18th century, Fibonacci came up with a numeric sequence that this magical number came out of. The sequence is built on the numbers 0 and 1, and each subsequent number is obtained by adding the previous two together. It turns out that the ratio between the two consecutive numbers of this sequence is roughly 1.618, the golden ratio. Let's try to visualize it. We'll draw squares proportionate to the numbers in the series. First, a square with the proportion 1. We add another 1 to it, like in the series. Next to it, we place a square with the proportion 2, then 3, then 5, 8, 13, and so on. If we join the vertices of the squares, this shape appears. Check it out. The Fibonacci spiral. Spiral that can be found all over in nature. That's why nature is naturally beautiful.
You saw how the Cathedral of Notre Dame and Bob Wilson's scenery for Péléas and Mélisande are made up of perfect rectangles. But how can we build a perfect rectangle that has the golden ratio? Easily. Check this out. All we need is a square like this one, a square that has 4 equal sides. Then we divide one of those sides, whichever one, for instance, this one, we divide it into 2 equal parts. Then, using a string like this one, from this center, look, we have got to go to this corner, you see? As if we were drawing a hypotenuse. Now pay attention, because this is very important. From this very spot, you draw the string, and the spot it falls is where you have got to start building your rectangle from. You see? Then I eliminate this part, this side of the square, and here you have it, a rectangle. If you divide the base by the height and you get the number 1.618, then you have a perfect rectangle that has the golden ratio. What is fascinating is that Debussy, with his music, he suggests us a kind of beauty, I would say ethereal beauty. And Bob Wilson, with his scenery, he suggests us another kind of beauty, I would say mathematical beauty. So we have on one hand Debussy's ethereal beauty, and on the other Bob Wilson's mathematical beauty. What a great idea.
We'll also find the golden ratio in people. The closer our proportions are to the golden ratio, theoretically, the better looking we are. But as you know, beauty depends upon many things. But what are these things? Who can answer that question for me is Guy Cheval, the director of the Museum of Orsay.
Let's start with the big one, with the great question, no? What is beauty?
Of course, you don't expect me to answer to such a question. I know what is not beauty.
If there is someone who can answer to this question, that's you.
Beauty is certainly something that guides your life. I think that your conception of beauty is formed by your sexuality first,
Sexuality first?
Yeah, certainly. And your conception of beauty is formed by your conception of harmony, and the taste that you have for regularity. And we French have a great taste in regularity. With the city of Paris, which we have behind that window, that clock is one of the most regular, one of the most perfect, even too regular.
But even if you say Paris is too regular, we can say Paris is beautiful.
Paris is absolutely beautiful.
It's absolutely beautiful. So nowadays, it's every canon of beauty valid?
When you say that, I'm thinking of advertisement, I'm thinking of the what is the promotion of youth, beauty, health, the fact that women must all have big bosoms, the men must be strong, and they must go to the gym, and it's a canon of beauty that did not exist in the 17th or in the 18th century. It began at the end, at the turn of the last century, at the beginning of the 20th century.
Because it could be that ugliness could be also beauty, or a beautiful thing? Or consider it a form of art?
It's a great motto of Victor Hugo and of the Romanticism, because dark Romanticism said that it was a total upturn of the canons of beauty, and that Shakespeare was at the center. And Shakespeare shows the ugliness, shows the dark side of the soul, and that is why it's so interesting.
Debussy break what would be in his time the regular canon of musical beauty.
Yeah.
With his opera Pelléas and Melisenda, he did something really new, something completely different. But the most of the people didn't understand this kind of music.
And they still do not. A lot of the French public prefers Mahler or Strauss or Wagner to the music of Debussy, because it's very difficult. When you start listening to Debussy, at first you are a bit repelled. You are on with some resistance to Debussy, and finally you are totally conquered. And for me, it's the greatest opera in history. Debussy is totally. There was a musician who said it's a no man's land of art, and there is nobody who went on exactly who tried to imitate and redo what Debussy had done, because it was impossible.
How does Debussy manage to suggest a musical impression to us? How is he able to liberate music? Very simple. Debussy turned his back on musical form, on rigidity. Debussy turned his back on tempo. You'll see. I'll give you an example. I'm going to play a sonata by Mozart. Listen. You see, Mozart is pure tempo, mathematical tempo. Listen. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Exactly tempo. But what about Debussy? Listen to this. You see, it's totally different. It's completely a different music. It is a floating music. But what would happen if I try to play Debussy as if it were Mozart? Listen. It doesn't work. It's not longer Debussy, because Debussy music is totally, completely different. It is impressionist music. It is floating music. Debussy was certain that art, beside the musical intention, the mood of the person enjoying it, and the historical moment surrounding its creation, art depends upon the performer. That's why he obsesses over the performer having access to his intention, the musical impression he wants to give. That's why his scores are full not of orders, but of suggestions. For instance, this one I was playing, he notes, lent, molto rubato, con morbidezza. So, to prove this, we're going to do an experiment. So, we have two pianists, one in Barcelona and one in Paris. Look. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Hi, Ramon.
Hi, Adolphe.
I'm fine, thank you.
Hi, Jean-François.
Hi, Ramon.
How do you feel today?
I'm
Are you
fine.
in high
Really
spirits?
fine.
Come on, I want you to play Debussy's Prelude number 12, which have one of the most subjective indications ever written for a piano performer. Modéré, nerveux et avec humeur, which means moderated, nervous, and with humor. Okay? So who wants to play first? Adolphe, do you want to play first?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Let's go.
Please, Adolphe, could you move the computer? We can't see it. We can see you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now?
Much better.
Okay.
Okay, Adolphe, thank you very much for your performance. Now, Jean-François, it's your turn.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Thank you, Jean-François. So thank you very much, Guy, to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
So we have reached the end of the opera. The two stepbrothers are victims of jealousy. Goulot can take it that Melisande has fallen in love with Péléas, so he kills Péléas and mortally wounds Melisande. But it's not your typical romantic ending. Even in these harsh moments, nothing is clear, nothing is obvious, everything is subtle, everything. Everything is simply an impression.
Debussy suffered greatly to finish Péléas and Melisande, the only opera he ever composed in his entire life. Finishing a work is like being present at the death of a loved one, he said. Maybe he was aware that once completed, it was no longer his, it belonged to everyone. But with Péléas and Melisande, Debussy left behind an extraordinary opera that changes the face of the history of music. I am convinced that if you listen to Debussy's music and let yourself go with it, it will be the music of your own emotions, whatever they may be. Because as human beings, we have the innate need to create and search for beauty.